Long before Rome, before Persia's splendor, there was a terror that rose from the marshes of the Tigris. A kingdom built on iron, fear, and relentless ambition. We call it Assyria, an empire whose name still echoes through ruins and legends. They carved empires from sand and steel. They marched with cavalry and chariots, sowing terror in the cities they conquered. They built palaces of ivory and walls of blood. How did savage war become civilization's tool? What drove Assyria to dominate ancient Mesopotamia? This is the story of iron crowns, ruthless kings, and a land trembling under terror. Assyria's heart lay in the fertile floodplain between the Tigris and the Euphrates in what is today northern Iraq. Its earliest cities, Assur, Nineveh, Nimrud rose near marshes, trade routes, and ancient Sumerian ruins. From early on, the Assyrians inherited both culture and conflict. They borrowed from their southern neighbors' gods, art, writing, but hardened themselves for war. In early centuries c. 14th-10th c. BCE, Assyria was one of many small states vying for power against Babylon, Urartu, and the Arameans. But in its brutal core was ambition kings who would not remain subordinate. By the 9th century BCE, under kings such as Ashur-namu and Ashur-nasirpal, Assyria began its transformation, standing not as a subject but as a predator. They reformed armies, built roads, installed governors, and prepared for empire, and the world would tremble. The first great wave of expansion came under Tiglath-Pileser III, reigned 745–727 BCE. He reorganized the military, introduced mass conscription, mobile cavalry, and iron weapons. He marched into Syria, seized lands from Urartu, and reduced Babylon to vassal status. But his successors would push further. Under Sargon II, the Assyrian armies laid siege to cities, deported populations, destroyed temples, and demanded tribute. He crushed Elam, subdued Aramean tribes, and built his capital at Dur-Sharrukin, modern Khorsabad. Then came Sennacherib, whose campaign against Judah became legend. He laid siege to Jerusalem, boasted he shut up Hezekiah like a bird in a cage, and razed Babylon later in his reign. His son Esarhaddon would capture Memphis in Egypt, plunging Assyrian arms into the Nile Valley. Finally, Ashurbanipal, a scholar king, would reign over the empire's golden age. His library at Nineveh preserved texts from Sumer, Babylon, and beyond. He consolidated power with ruthless precision. Yet Assyria's power could not last forever. By the late 7th century BCE, the empire's edges were fraying. Rebellions rose in Babylonia. Scythians and Medes pushed from the north. By 612 BCE, the great city of Nineveh fell. Torchlit, besieged by Medes and Babylonians, Assyria collapsed, its empire dissolved like dust in wind. The fall of Nineveh was no gentle twilight, it was a storm. Chronicles speak of the waterworks broken, walls breached, palace doors torn down, fire consumed records, statues lay smashed. The terror once wielded by Assyria turned upon itself. Ashur, the sacred city, and Haran in the west held on briefly, but they too yielded. By 609 BCE, Assyria was no more a memory in rubble and exile. Yet even in destruction, the Iron Legacy remained echoes in politics, architecture, literature. Assyria's empire was brutal, its reputation of terror is well earned. They pioneered mass deportations, making conquered peoples move across the empire, breaking resistance through displacement. They built roads, courts, and governors, administering territories with efficiency. They recorded not only victories, but inscriptions of fear telling nations, submit or perish. But Assyria also preserved and fostered civilization. Ashurbanipal's library collected wisdom from Sumer, Akkad, Babylon. Art and architecture, reliefs carved on palace walls, depict war, myth, religion. A visual record of a harsh world. Assyrian methods would be a model both for empire and cruelty. Persia, Rome, even later empires would adopt roads, provinces, propaganda, but they would also avoid the mistake Assyria made: overreach, overstretch, and internal revolt. Today, the ruins of Nineveh, Nimrud, Khorsabad stand as silent giants beneath the heat, reminding us that empires born of terror must contend with their own ghosts. When we speak of iron and terror, we remember Assyria not only for its weapons, but for the question it poses to every empire. How much violence can a civilization justify in the name of security, stability, or destiny before it crumbles under its own weight.